So shall we start? Okay. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome at our session, which is called Integrity in Classroom. It's a session and also a webinar which is organized by Council of Europe. So thank you very much to Council of Europe for this presentation. The first half of the session will be called It's Never Too Early to Start with Academic Integrity. And it's a workshop which is primarily dedicated for secondary school teachers, but I believe that also the other audience can benefit from it. My name is Dita Dlabelova, and I will guide you through this session. I work at Mendel University in Brno, which is in Czech Republic. I work there as a teacher and research assistant in the field of computer science and also academic integrity. Today we will cover multiple topics in this first part. All of the topics, they are somehow related with the using of the sources of the others. First we will start with academic integrity, what it actually is and why it might be important or interesting also for the high schools. Then we will focus on plagiarism and its prevention. And then in slightly different second part, we will focus on using of different sources properly and also to sharing our own sources properly so also the others can benefit from them. So let's start with the academic integrity. First, I would like to somehow define it, and sometimes it's easier to define it when you go a little bit opposite from the bad side. So we can negatively define academic integrity, that it's when we don't have academic dishonesty. Here I have a few examples of what belongs to academic dishonesty, which are related to universities and also to the high schools. It's exam cheating, safe plagiarism, buying assessment, inappropriate collusion. Does something else come to your mind which might belong to academic dishonesty? Or dishonesty in classroom or school in general?
Maybe sharing some files, some exams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, inappropriate or unallowed sharing of files, exams.
Dishonesty in group work.
Dishonesty in group work, yeah, which might be a big issue when one person is doing everything and all the others are just taking the credits. Okay, why it is important also at the high school? We are usually using the term academic dishonesty, academic integrity. Thank you. But why we can kind of exchange this word academic for, let's say, any school dishonesty, any school integrity?
This is a part of educational practices, so it covers all level of education.
Yes, it covers all level of education. So even when we are usually talking about academic integrity relating to academia, it belongs to all levels of education and to all levels of actually whole society. Just to be complete, I provide here a definition of academic integrity. So when we define academic dishonesty, it's compliance with ethical and professional principles, standards, and practices by individuals or institutions in education, so any level of education, and also in the research and scholarship. We already mentioned that one of the levels of academic dishonesty, which is breaking the academic integrity, is plagiarism. So let's now focus on plagiarism in a part which will be called where is the borderline of plagiarism. And to be honest and to act with integrity, I should mention that this is a workshop which was originally created by our colleague Irene Glending from Coventry University, and then me and my colleague Tomáš Foltínek, we kind of like redeveloped it and adjusted a little bit, and this is the way how I'm going to present it now. So maybe first, what is plagiarism? How do we define plagiarism?
If we are copying something without giving credit to the author.
Using other authors' sources, ideas, or text without giving credit, yes? Something else that we can put there?
I would say this relates to poor paraphrasing. I mean, that's academic writing skills.
Yeah.
This is probably the result, not the definition itself, but that's how it happens.
Yeah, so the poor paraphrasing or failing to cite properly also belongs there, even when it's not really the definition, but it belongs there. Okay, some other idea of what we can what we can call plagiarism.
If we are using someone's pictures, for example, or maybe data.
Yeah, so plagiarism is not only about text, but it's about any level of sources, so also pictures or any other kind of data. Yes, so I think we basically mentioned the definitions of plagiarism that I have here. So just to repeat the definitions of plagiarism that might be simple and useful, and probably this is a way which even young students might understand them. So using work of somebody else without proper acknowledge and present it as our own. Also failing to cite correctly and reference the work of the others, and also not giving credits for the contribution of someone else to our work. In the next part, I would like you to be a little bit more active. Also, this will be the exercise for the people who are watching the webinar online. So we will have here 8 different cases which are describing a student's work, and our task will be to decide whether it is plagiarism. Maybe we can think also about the fact if it's serious plagiarism, or we can decide that it's no plagiarism, but it's also totally okay if you are just not sure about this particular case, because the cases are described really briefly, and it might be not sufficient information for you to decide. So let's now take a look at the cases. So for all the cases, we can imagine that students submitted a work. It was some text, essay, seminar work, and when we were checking this work, we realized that more or less 40% of this work was coming from different sources, was identical from different sources. And now we have different 8 cases how these sources were used. So let's first describe them, and in the meantime you can think about them, and then I will provide you more time about thinking of each of the cases. So in the first case, the 40% was copied word for word with no quotations, so we don't see from the student text before we somehow found out that this was copied, which is student's work and which is the copied work. There are also absolutely no references at the end of the text, and there are no in-text citations. So basically it looks like it's student's own work, but we found out that there are 40% from different work. In the second case, the work is copied word for word, again, no quotations. But at the end of the work, we find the references to the original source. But inside of the text, there are no in-text quotations. In the third case, again, it's 40% word for word. There are no quotations, but we have here the in-text citations, and the list of references is provided. In the fourth case, we have many short phrases, so it's now not one big 40% piece, but it's many short phrases. They are from many sources, but the sources or these phrases are not quoted at all. There is no list of references, and of course there are also no in-text citations. Number 5 is really similar to number 4. Again, the 40%, which is identical with other sources, is from many different sources. Then we can see where these parts start and where do they end. There are quotation marks. So at the beginning and at the end of each copied sentence, there is a quotation mark. And after each of them there is in-text citation, and at the end of the work we find a list of references which provide links to all these pieces. In the 6, 7, and 8 case, we have again 40% identical or almost identical with one source. Just some words are changed. Here and there is one synonym change, or maybe the order of the words in the sentence is changed. Sometimes the verbs are in different form, in different tense. In number 6, there are no quotations, no references, no in-text citations. In number 7, there are no quotations. There is a list of references, but there are no in-text citations. And in the number 8, there are there are no quotations. There are references and there are in-text citations. Now I would like to those who are here presented as this workshop to work in groups and to decide about each case, whether it is plagiarism or serious plagiarism, no plagiarism, or if they are just not sure. And I would like to ask the people who are just watching the webinar. So now take 5 minutes and think about if this is plagiarism, serious plagiarism, no plagiarism, or you are not sure. So please take your 5 minutes to decide, and you should agree in the group.
We can discuss, okay, just join us if you want to. It means the system is not well functioning, right?
60% was his own and 40 was made with all the due credits. Short
Although there is
phrases.
no plagiarism.
Yeah, so I would
It's
say
just
not.
text matches I mean, probably there is no original contribution.
Could be, maybe if it's some kind of piece of work from
Yeah, it's any seminar work or any type of work. It can be literature review.
Yeah, but I saw that.
he should change it, but tries to cover it as easy as possible.
So hello again. So I hope you had enough time to think about the cases. And now I would like the participants here to provide their opinion, and you can check if their opinion and our opinion agrees with what you prepared. So the first case, word for word, no quotations, no references. What is the agreement here with our group?
Serious plagiarism.
Yeah, we call this as the serious plagiarism. Obviously, the person was using significant amount of other work. It's 40%, it's almost a half, and didn't even put there any sign of any try or any attempt to reference or acknowledge the work of the others. The second one, who added at least the list of references at the end.
Still serious.
Yeah, it's still serious. There is the list of references, but it's definitely not sufficient because we can't see which parts were taken from the other sources and which parts are the original student work. So we actually, as the teachers, we don't know what we can assess. Okay, the third one, who added also the in-text citations and the references.
It could be plagiarism, so either plagiarism or honest error, because the 50% imply that perhaps the citation, if it was even quoted, perhaps, oh, it's not quoted.
It's not
No
quoted.
quotation. Perhaps, just took a too long piece of the text it put in the paper.
Yes, so
it could be, this 40% match.
it's plagiarism, then it would really probably depend on the particular case. If we would call it just a mistake of the student, maybe he's just newbie, so he doesn't know that he should also use the quotations. But it's still in general taking as the plagiarism because we don't see where the student's work starts and where starts the part which was taken from other sources. Okay, now number 4.
Yeah, serious plagiarism.
Serious plagiarism, yeah, because again, even when he was using many different sources, he haven't acknowledged them. So this is sometimes called as patch writing, as we have this patch pillows made from small parts. So these are texts which are made from small other pieces of somebody else's work. Okay, number 5, which is similar to number 4, but we have here quotations, we have here references, and we have here in-text citations.
No plagiarism, I would say.
Yeah, this is no plagiarism. It's still 40% that is not original, but for some text it's totally okay. Maybe it was a literature review, maybe it was a work from law where the person needed to copy some pieces of law and then provide the 60% of his or her own comments. Yes, so number 5 shouldn't be plagiarism from this definition or from this description. Okay, number 6.
We would say that serious plagiarism.
Serious plagiarism, again, absolutely no sign of any acknowledgement, so this is serious plagiarism. Number 7, here we have some words changed, but we have the list of references.
But that's not sufficient, so we probably will just serious plagiarism.
Yeah, it's just the list of the references, but we have no idea where they are used. So still serious plagiarism. And number 8.
There were some attempts to make good practice, but again, probably not so serious, but again, plagiarism.
Yeah, in general, this is a plagiarism. Then probably this one is the most tricky from this short description. What we mean by some words changed. Maybe it was just a poor practice in paraphrasing. Maybe the student was trying to tell it in his own words, but he failed. But maybe he was just trying to hide that he was actually copying something. So with number 8, it would probably depend on the particular case. Okay, let's now focus on scenario 1 and 6. So the 1 was 40% copied word by word, no citations, no quotation marks, no references. And number 6 was 40% with some words changed, and then also no citations, no quotation marks, and no references. Which of them would you consider as a worse one?
Where there is nothing. I mean, neither references.
There are no references, no citation.
No quotation marks.
It's number 1 and number 6. These are the two that we are discussing. So there's nothing in any of them. Just number 6 has some words changed.
But some words changed. It means this was very intentionally made. While with the previous one, you can still make a debate. Is it because of the poor knowledge, or because this is the habit that a student has from the very beginning in school?
Yes, so probably in number 6, the student had some knowledge that he shouldn't use the text of the other authors as it is, so he was trying to hide it by changing some words. So in this case, it would be more serious than in the first one. We can still a little bit negotiate if the person might have just made a mistake, he just didn't know. But in the 6, it seems that he was trying to hide something. On the other hand, sometimes when I have this workshop with teachers, they say that they rather prefer the 6th one because the student was trying at least to do something, at least to change the synonyms. But still, it is a plagiarism. The same questions and the same scenarios were provided in the surveys, international surveys, which were conducted in the whole European Union and also in the countries of Southeast Europe. And when we were asking the students exactly the same scenarios, these are their answer on the first scenario. So again, no quotations, no references, 40% copied. So you can see that in this dark blue or the azure color, more or less all students throughout the Europe, they a little bit agreed that this is plagiarism or serious plagiarism. Sometimes they were not sure. In Macedonia, they were thinking this is not plagiarism because probably it's less than 50% or something like this. But more or less, we can see that they agree that this is a problem and this is a plagiarism. And then we compare it with the second one, the 6th one, where some words changed. I would now ask our audience here, what do you think? Will it be same or will we move somehow with the graph?
The red color will go down and
yes, so
take the bigger part.
Okay,
I would
so your
assume.
expectation is that the red part will grow. Okay, do you agree, the others?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so let's see it.
They would be more optimistic.
Yes, the red part was growing. The yellow part, where the students are not sure, was growing even more significantly, and also the seriousness of plagiarism was really dropping down. So when there are some words changed in really many countries, the students don't consider this to be plagiarism, which is quite alarming because it is plagiarism. Just when you change a few words, it doesn't make it not being plagiarism. So now we talk about what is plagiarism, and now let's take a look at the next thing. What are the reasons? What actually leads students to plagiarize? I would ask you again for your individual activity. The people here and also the people who are watching us on YouTube. Take now only 2 minutes, it will be short, and try to write down by yourself what are the reasons why do students plagiarize. If you are watching the video with somebody, you can write it each of you by yourself, and then you can share it with your neighbor. I will ask then our group also to share it everything with us. So 2 minutes to write down the reasons for plagiarism.
To make your life easier.
It was supposed to be individual, but I think here it's okay because we all know it.
Should I take it using your primers?
Yeah.
Everyone is writing this up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Píšete tu Ondřeji Henek odpovědi.
Yeah.
Ale plagiátorství a celé.
Tak se asi dneska nudí, on zítra na operaci, tak je dneska v nemocnici. Mhm. Okay, so can we continue? Yeah, think about the techniques. Yeah. Okay, so let's now share the reasons. Why do students plagiarize?
Okay, so what I wrote,
Okay.
and this is my conclusions from some observations, is that I would say that the first reason is lack of knowledge and consistent building of skills from the very first steps in the education system. And when this is not done, then all the other reasons come.
Okay, yeah, so the lack of knowledge about proper work with the work of the others.
And consistent practice based on that knowledge.
Yeah, lack of consistent practice. Okay.
So I will just add that it derives from the fact that neither school policies nor teachers provide instruction regarding the value of behaving ethically. So if you are not recommended to cite, you won't.
So lack of guidance from teachers, proper guidance from teachers.
And maybe I think that sometimes they are not taking it so seriously because they think that nobody is going to read it again. So that's why they are not citing why they should put an effort.
It's only the schoolwork, nobody will ever read it, so why should I cite? And then they become ministers, and then everybody starts reading their work. Okay? Yeah, yeah.
I know that each person, his life is arranged in the way that he or she should adopt in the easiest way. So if you want to have a higher grade, you will go with some other forms of how to get it. So cheating is just part of this.
So making the life easier, as easy as it's possible. Okay. So what can be done about it? How this can be prevented? The plagiarism and the reasons that you mentioned.
As we already said, at first there has to come proper education from the teachers to students.
Yeah, so the proper education for students.
Information for students.
So the guidance for the students.
And I would say there should be kind of leadership support. I mean, the school administration should be aware of this issue, and it should not be left between teachers and students.
So also some support from the highest level of the school. So having the policies which then can be actually applied.
But I also think that it is, we sometimes focus too much on university, on school, because what we are talking here, I mean, the problem of plagiarism itself, I think it reflects to a certain extent the problem of values and culture. I mean, in the wider society, if we allow ourselves, for example, as, I don't know, parents, as colleagues, as, I don't know, just public figures, to make our lives easier, to make exceptions, to ignore things, it's eventually leads to these practices not only in the sphere of academia or educational system and in all the others. So I think there we need just like much wider probably discussion about these things. And when we discuss with students, we should not only argue about the context of school and school tasks, but explain that eventually what they are doing with school tasks, it will evolve in their profession tasks. And it will be not so easy to go from some easy practices to like more serious practices in those contexts.
So some kind of culture of integrity in the whole society. Okay, so I was trying to predict the things that you are going to say, and I think I was, here we have the education and the support for students, so we need to teach students why they should use the citations, how they should do it. When they have some assignment, they should have very clear instructions. Maybe repeat again what it was said at the beginning, at the introductory lecture, to provide them clear instructions how to do it. Maybe sometimes the students state that it's just very difficult for them to follow the citations rules. So provide them some tools which might help them. For example, some citations managers as Mendeley or Zotero, or also in simply just in Microsoft Word there there's a citation manager, which is quite easy to use, so it's quite usable also for quite young pupils and young students. I think we also manage the support which the teachers should have from the high level of any institution. So there should be clear policies at the institutions which are describing these important issues as how to act properly with the good citation practice and also all other parts of the academic integrity. All these policies, they should be approached consistently. So the teachers should be consistent in their approach with all the students. All the teachers should be consistent in the whole institution, and ideally also all institutions should be consistent with their policies and with their approach. Also, the teachers need support and education. It's not only the students. So also for the teachers, especially when they haven't ever been taught about this and they have to find out somehow during their life that it's important to acknowledge the work of the others if I'm building on it. So also provide the training or education for teachers. If there can be some seminars or workshops, at least some materials, maybe the materials which are ready to use, so then they can use them in their classroom. Here I will make a short break to the European Network for Academic Integrity, which you are seeing the logo for all the time at the presentations, which I'm a member of. And this is one of our activities to prepare materials which are ready to use to be used by the teachers. Mostly they are English, but also in some other languages. So this might be also a possible source for education also for the teachers. And one thing that usually is quite helping for the students, it's awareness of the consequences. I don't want to say the penalties, as the consequences. What it happens when I make a mistake, not only that I would receive a bad grade or 0 grade from my assignment, but also that there might be some much more serious consequences that can come with the same mistakes when they are applied in the later real life. So this is what Inga mentioned, that also we should provide the students the knowledge that the things which are learning in the school is not just for the school, it's for the whole rest of their life. Okay, so this was the prevention of plagiarism. Do you have something to add? Okay, so let's go to the second part of my speech, and this is the using of the work of the others. We will now focus more beside the text, so we will not talk about the citations and plagiarism, but we will talk about the proper use of other sources which we can, for example, use in our educational materials, or on the other hand, how we can share our own sources, our own materials with our own. So, so how to use correctly sources which are created by the other authors. We can talk, for example, about the images, about other presentations, video, or any other multimedia. And then on the other hand, how I can easily share my work with the other people, but not just to throwing it to the internet to be just used as whatever might happen with it, but somehow to keeping my own authorship and to protect my own authorship. To sum up the authorship principles really briefly and in really simplified way, and as I'm not a lawyer and I don't want to run too deep to the law, which also differs in every country, so I decided to choose on a few authorship principles. Every piece of work has some author. There is always somebody who dedicated some energy and some effort for creation for some piece of material. In general, there is a copyright to protect the rights of the authors. And this copyright usually is applied by different licenses with different conditions. We can describe it on a really simple example of a book. if an author writes a book, then he is the author and he has all the rights to deal with this book. But usually most of the authors, they don't want to publish the book by themselves, they don't want to print it by themselves, they don't want to take about the care about the marketing. So they have some agreement that they provide some rights to this piece of work, to this book, to the publisher, who has then the right to publish the book, to provide the copies of this book. And then us, when we come to a bookstore and we we buy this book, it means that we again kind of get some license to this book, where we have some limited rights to do what we can do with this book. We can read it, read it, enjoy it in the way that we want, but actually we don't have right to republish the book, to again make more copies. So this is in a simple way how it works with the authorship, and it's the exactly way how it also works with all the other pieces of work, which can be, for example, images that we would like to use in our presentation. Let me provide you an example. I would like to prepare a presentation where I would like to have an image of the beautiful town where we are just having this session, which is Riga. And I'm searching the internet for an image. I found this one. I really like it. And it's on some page which is called Shutterstock. There's actually some watermark about it, but I don't care. The watermark, it's not that much visible. So it can be very easy just with a right click on the image and save the image, and then I can use it in my presentation. So technically it's very easy to use this image. It's much more easier than if I would like to republish a book that I bought just for myself to read. But on the other hand, I'm not sure if I can actually do it. The fact that I can do it technically doesn't mean that I have enough rights to do it. And if I would click just here at the licensing terms, and if I would read through all this long text, I would realize that I actually should buy the license. I should pay for using the image. And even if I can easily technically download this image, I don't have rights to use it. So then I can actually be accused of a violation of the law that I actually used this image. So that was one case. Let's continue in searching for image of Riga. This we realized that maybe it wouldn't be so fine. So here we found some personal blog of a person who traveled to Riga, and on his or her blog, this person is telling that if you want, you can download my images. This is the images that I have taken. So again, it's technically very easy to download these images. This person tells me that I can download it, so why not to download them? And now, in this case, we are getting to a little bit gray zone. The person claims that we can download them, but what if she changes her mind? And in 1 week, I will receive a letter that I unauthorizedly used her images, because in the meantime, she deletes this kind of like allowance from the website. So to prevent this gray zone when there are thousands of millions of images or sources all over the internet, and most of them the authors would like to share them with the others, because I made nice images and I would be happy if you use them. And on the other hand, there are people who would like to use them. So to provide them a bridge, which would be also have some legal support, they're so-called public licenses, which are solving this problem. And one public license that I would like to talk about, which I personally really like because of this principle, is the Creative Commons license. The Creative Commons license allows very easily to any author to how he can provide public access to his work. So the principle is that the author is offering a license agreement with to the public. So he offers some rights to his work, and anybody who would like to use this work, he doesn't need to ask the author for the allowance, for the permission. He just uses with the correspondence with the conditions which were provided by this author, and these conditions are described by the Creative Commons of the license. The Creative Commons license has basically 3 layers. On one layer there is the legal code. So there's a strong legal code created by lawyers in many countries behind it. So even if there would come some awful situation, somebody would sue me for me using his images in my presentation, there is the legal code behind it. For most of us who aren't lawyers, the reading of the legal codes is just simply and basically not possible. So it's also very easily human readable thanks to simple symbols. And as we are living in the digital age and we are talking about the sharing information on the internet, there is also machine readability of the license. So how does it work? There are simple symbols which are marking what the people can do with this particular piece of work. Each of the symbol has its own meaning. So the first symbol, when we have just the symbol of Creative Commons and then this icon of a person, means you can use my work any way how you want, but you just have to state me as the author. The second one, which is delivering this, which is adding this cycle. This is you can use my work any way you want. You have to state me as the author, but you have to share it under the same or similar license, because I want my work to be shared, and if it's redone, to be share alike. Then the next type is that I decided I don't want the other people to adjust my work. My photographs were perfect, so I don't want other people to change them somehow. So this is this symbol. Yes, you can use my work any way you want, but you can't share them, and you have to state me as an author. And to all these 3 options, you can add the 4th symbol, which means no commercial use. You can use my work in the way that I decided in the previous cases, but only for your personal or educational purposes, but not for commercial use. Don't earn money on my work. In practice, it looks like that we have to always state when we are using the work the identification of the author. So here I have an image which was licensed under the Creative Commons, and I'm acknowledging according to the rules of Creative Commons. So I'm here stating the name of the author, name of the original work, which is the Riga Castle, the source of the work, which I believe is this link, oops, and the license, which is here the name of the license, which can be then easily found online on the webpage of Creative Commons, and according to this license the rules are applied. For these Creative Commons sources, not of course all the sources that we find at the internet are licensed under Creative Commons, but there are really many databases that are using them. For all the places where you can find Creative Commons sources, I choose the 4th, from my point of view, the most popular: Wikipedia, Wikimedia Commons, YouTube, and Flickr, but there are really many others. So let's now take a look at Wikipedia, how it works. So I go to Wikipedia, and I'm still desiring for the picture of Riga. So I go to English Wikipedia, and I open the page about Riga. Here I find some nice picture that I like. Okay, so let's say that this one. And when I try to download this picture, either the regular way, just the right click and save the image, or you can use this special button for downloading. So when I try to download it, there is a notice that I can attribute the author because this image was licensed under the Creative Commons, which I can find if I scroll a little bit down. There is the information about the license. So I try to download the picture, and clicking here on Show Me How, here I can copy all the information which would attribute the author, which would fulfill the requirements of Creative Commons. So that's another advantage of the Creative Commons, that most of the platforms that are using them, they are also providing this really simple tool how we can apply them in practice. So then I can just copy this piece of text and paste it somewhere near to the work as I have it in my in my presentation, so exactly the way how I did it here with this picture of Riga Castle. There is also pretty new function that the Creative Commons brought, which is also making which can make our life easier. It's like 2 weeks since they introduced it, and this is a search on different places for the Creative Commons sources, so you don't have to go particularly to Wikipedia and there search for suitable images, or to Wikimedia or to Flickr, but you can search them all in one. If you go to Creative Commons webpage, which is just simply creativecommons.org, then there is a link right here at the top of the page. Search the Commons. And here we can see in which databases the Creative Commons is searching. So you can see that it's searching in the Flickr, in the Google Images, or in the Wikimedia Commons. I can also check which of these databases I want to be searched. And then I simply enter my search query, so which is again Riga. And I click on search. And here I receive the results, which are under Creative Commons from the different databases that it was used. So again, then I choose some of the pictures that I like, and depending on which source where it was found, there will be information about how I can use this source with appliance to Creative Commons. So here I have the information about the license, so I can see that this is free even for the commercial use. I have here also the information about the author, so all the information for me when I would like to acknowledge this this piece of work properly. So before we will go to the second part, or second point of view at this working and sharing the sources, now it was from the point of view of user, now it was from the point of view of user. Do you have some questions? Maybe was there something which wasn't clear? Okay, so let's proceed to the second part. Yes.
Is it always obvious who is the author?
That's a really good question. If it's really obvious who is the author, no. It really depends on how the particular source of this, let's say, picture, in how it's organized. This particular examples that I have here, the way how they present the work, it is always obvious. They kind of like require, before you upload something, you have to fill in the information about the author. But I can simply decide that I will also publish something on my personal blog under Creative Commons, and I can totally fail to put it there, obviously. Maybe this case, the author also wanted to publish it under Creative Commons. Maybe if we would scroll down, we would find out that there are the proper icons, but he just didn't state who is the author. So it's not always obvious. But yeah, the search that I have just shown you, as far as as I have the experience with it, it's searching in the sources where it is obvious, because it's required who is the author. Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's now take a look at the author's point of view. So if we would like to share our own work and we would like to be then acknowledged properly and not to have our work to be kind of misused. Before we share anything under the Creative Commons license, we have to answer two questions. First of them is if we are really owner of the work. Are we really the original author of the work? Isn't it that this is not really my work? Because if it's not my work, if I'm not the owner of the work, that I don't have rights to to work with it. Remember the first example with the book. And the second one, from the conditions of the Creative Commons license, it says that it may not be revoked. So if I see that people are downloading my image quite a lot, I can't change my mind that I will, this particular image, change the license for some commercial license and that I will allow or that I will demand the people to pay me for this image. So I have to be sure that I'm the author and I have to be sure that I don't want to change the license, never, ever. If I answered these two questions, then, and I'm sure with the answers, then it's really easy to help the others to acknowledge my work and to use my work. Again, we will go to the Creative Commons webpage. Now it's creativecommons.org/choose. Which is a part of the Creative Commons page which is serving for the authors to prepare or to decide about the future of their work. So let's say that the presentation that I'm just presenting here right now, that I would like to share it, and that I would like to place at the very last slide in this presentation what actually are the conditions that this presentation is licensed under Creative Commons and that I am the author. So in the first step, I have to decide what will be the Creative Commons license, which of the symbols that I would like to have here. I'm deciding this by answering very simple questions. Do I want to allow adaptations of my work which to be shared? Yes, no, yes, as long as the others share it alike. So as long as the others share it also under some this kind of open license. Yeah, I don't want the others to share it under some restrict license, so I will choose this yes as long as the others share it alike. Do I want to allow the commercial use of my work? Okay, if somebody would like to use my presentation in some commercial workshop which would help somebody, why not? Okay, so I will allow the commercial use of the license. So here I'm receiving the information which license I have selected. So this is the Creative Commons license. If somebody uses it, has to attribute me, has to state the author, and this is the share alike principle. So if somebody uses this work, he can he can adjust my work, but if he would like to share the adjusted work, he has to share it in the way and also under some open license. Then I can click on this, help the others to attribute you. Yes, I would like to help the others to attribute. So I will fill in just this simple form. So title of the work is the, let's make it shorter, Academic Integrity Workshop. Attribute work to name. Well, this is the information about the person who prepared the work. So I was preparing this presentation, so it will be my name. Attribute work to URL. Well, the presentation is available on any online source, so I will fill this this blank. The same the source work URL. the other sources which were used in the presentations, the URLs are inside of the presentation, so I will not provide it here. And if I would like to have some more or other specific permissions, I can also place them somewhere online and provide the link, so I will also skip this. I can decide about the format of the work. Where I can choose between different formats. I think for my particular presentation, the other multiple formats, so it's the best. And here at the end of the page, already the information about how my work can be used and how it can be shared was generated. So we can see, there's some typo, I'm sorry. Yeah. So Academic Integrity Workshop by Dita, by this author, is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike International License. So I can now just take this piece of text and together with the image, I can easily copy it to my presentation. If the work that I would like to share wouldn't be a presentation, but it would be something that I would be placing somewhere on the web, I can just copy this code which would generate me exactly this thing for the web. So I will just copy this. And here is a slide in my presentation, which is where we have space for this. So this is where I will just paste it. Okay, yeah. Okay, so it doesn't look like perfect. It doesn't look perfect, but I think it looked good enough. So then everybody who downloads this presentation, he can easily see this information, and unless he ignores it and violates this license, he knows what he can do with this work. So he can use it any way he wants, and then he can share it if he shares it under a similar license, and if he states or attributes me as the author. And that's everything from my part of the workshop, unless you have some questions to any part of the things or any part that I've presented.
Thank you for your presentation. That was really quite comprehensive. I just wonder, because in some countries, the same word is used for few of them. And I guess that it would be interesting to know or to say a more distinct difference between quotation and citation. Because, for example, in Lithuania, you have one word for that. So how different is it?
Yeah, so if we go to the first part of the workshop when we were talking about the plagiarism, to just define what was meant there in the cases by the citations and by the quotations. So by the quotations, what we meant there were the quotation marks, which are somehow distinguishing the text which was copied from some other source. It doesn't have to be only the quotation mark, it can be other way of change in the formatting. Sometimes the italics is used to show what is the taken part of the text. And in the citations, there was the term in-text citation, which is the link to the source which is used within the text. So it can be just a number which is then linking to the number of this particular source in the bibliography, or it can be in the form of the surname, comma, and then the year, which then can be also found in the bibliography. Yeah, thank you very much. This should have been made clear. Okay, so any other questions? Okay, so yeah, just to acknowledge the sources that I have been working with, and I would also like to thank the Council of Europe who supported this presentation, and the Europe Erasmus Plus project who supports Erasmus Plus program who supports our project, the European Network for Academic Integrity. So thank you very much.
Yeah, just yeah, we need to wait for them. Prostě mě pořád píše ta moje spolužačka, co jo, ale prostě takový hrozný keci, když si to přečteš. Jo, tady mi napsala teda, že co po mně chce. Tak jsem jí řekla, jestli nechce radši říct fakt to je naší vedoucí tehdejší. A ona prostě, tak jsem jí napsala, že přes LinkedIn stejně zjistí, že kecá. Tak ona sakra, to mě vůbec nenapadlo, že změní mě příjmení a toto. A že jako tam dala na nějaký rok jiný a pak si to přehodila s prací a tak dále. Že je víc Veronik, tak to nebudou hledat a takové věci. Že už, tak jsem napsala, že i tak si myslím, že by mě měla zavolat, ne?
Jakože ještě, jakože když to takhle mění, že předtím to teda bylo, že
A
chtěla
ona dívej.
potvrdit něco, co je pravda, ale teď chce potvrdit něco, co není pravda.
Že takto jednej jsem posílala už tvoje jméno, ale bez kontaktu, tak to nechám tak a potom můžem zkusit Zoru. Že nebylo by to divné, že s ní není v kontaktu. Já říkám, proč to není divné, prostě to byla jí nadřízená, tak no, ale že si tam Zora měla rok práce 2010. No a prostě tady mi píše, jak jej úplně doplaču z toho, že potřebuje práci, toto, tak si napsal, že ji rozumím, ale prostě neměla by lhát a tady toto.
Aha.
No a ona asi mi povedala, že si musí dát účtu na druhý, jakože to dělala loni a tady toto a prostě jak jeho kamarádi mu vždycky dělali jakože ty reference a tak a že má za hodinu pohovor přes Skype. Ale to mě asi už nezajímá. To je hrozný, já to jen fakt nechci dělat.
No to je fakt, ale jakože ještě když to
No a ona mi tvrdí, že tam nemění to, že jako to, kde pracovala, že je pravda, že si tam nic jako neobírá, akorát dává jinak kroky. Jo, ale prostě to je lhaní i z mého pohledu, takže... No, jsem z toho úplně na nervy. Tak z 11 lidí je to jeden. Ale vypadala si to moc pěkně.
Děkuji.
Could you come, please?
Yeah.
There was one who was doing online. I don't know who was it. That he was trying
Yeah,
to copy.
that's my boyfriend.
Oh, okay.
You were told me.
He read the answers, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
serious, no. Number 3, no plagiarism.
No
okay.
serious, number 3.
No.
You should discuss it at home much
Yeah.
more, you know? He doesn't know about plagiarism at all. Is he your boyfriend?
Yeah, 7 and 8 are no plagiarism as well. Okay.
You should discuss it at home, definitely. Okay. Yeah. Be ready for the webcast. Okay, so ladies, I would like to welcome you here at my workshop, and I would like to, of course, welcome all the viewers from the YouTube who are watching my workshop. Today we are going to talk about contract cheating and why we have to talk about it and why it's important to talk about it today. It's because today is the International Day of Action Against Contract Cheating. So this workshop is partly made to support this occasion. At first, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Če from Department of Law and Social Sciences from Mendel University in Brno, which is in Czech Republic. And I am also a PhD student at the same university. And I participate at a global SAML survey as a project coordinator. And now I'm also team member of one project which is called Contract Cheating Project, and we are developing questionnaire for contract cheating. So this is something what I'm going to talk about. So my research topic is basically contract cheating, and this workshop is based on International Toolkit to Combat Contract Cheating, which was designed in 2016 by ICAI, and it's based on some cooperation, some previous workshop I already made with my colleague Dita and also with Terry Fishman. So the outline is going to be very simple. At first, I would like to introduce the issue. Then I would provide you some results from some research. And then I would like to discuss with you how to deal with contract cheating, which is going to be the last part of the presentation. And I would expect that there is going to be some discussion. So to warm you up, I would like to ask you, what types of cheating do you know? And it doesn't matter if we are going to talk about universities or high schools. It just should be from education. So if you can tell me some forms of cheating you know, what are the first you have in your mind?
Using crib notes, falsifying documents.
Yes, great. Any other idea?
Plagiarism.
Yeah, definitely plagiarism. Any other? This is really easy and basic question, but
So, for example, when a task has to be done by a group of students, but then basically one student does everything and the attribution goes to all students because they
Yes.
present it as students' work.
Or the other way around, when the assignment should be done by one student individually, but they work on it as a group, or somebody else is helping him or her.
great, great. Thank you very much. I've got just few things from which I found in one article, and I think that they are basically covering many things that you already talked about. So at first, using unauthorized aids, which could be smartwatch or it could be your mobile phone or something like that. Then of course, script sheets, really common, copying file, sharing, fabricating of the data, or maybe accessing external assistance. And it could be not only when you are doing some assignment, it could be even when you are writing an exam. And then having another student who sign you on your name, like you were attended, but actually you were not. And of course, plagiarism and contract cheating. My colleague Dita, she talked a lot about plagiarism, so I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about contract cheating. But I have to mention plagiarism. And the reason why I have to mention it is because a lot of people think that this is the same thing, that the plagiarism is the same as contract cheating. We can say that contract cheating could be part of plagiarism, but it is defined really in different way. So basically, plagiarism is presenting the work of others as if it were his or her own without proper acknowledgement. And I use this citation from Glossary for Academic Integrity, where all these topics are discussed. So this is the plagiarism. And now contract cheating. Contract cheating is basically form of misconduct when a person uses a third party to assist them to produce work whenever or not payment or favor is involved. So I think that everybody can feel or see the difference between plagiarism and contract cheating. When we are talking about contract cheating, there is mostly the third party which is involved personally. So, if we are talking about contract cheating, what students might do? At first, they might purchase an assignment from an online site or another platform, or they can obtain assistance from someone else that goes beyond just editing, or they are not just editing or just looking at the mistakes or something like that. They are basically writing then the assignment, or they are solving the problem. And the third thing is they can pay someone to write an assignment for them. Basically, this is just about writing an essay, but contract cheating can go much more further. So it could be even if someone might impersonate other student during the text or exam, or maybe during the entire class, could be. And if they share answers to an assignment, that could be contract cheating too. There are some problems of contract cheating. Basically, we can say that it is cheap because you can pay less than €7 per one page. And when I just imagine the effort you have to put on writing one page, €7 or less, or maybe sometimes more, is not a big amount. Then we already know that this is really accessible. If you just Google it, if you just put in Google writing essays in your city or something like that, you can easily find some companies which are providing you writing these essays. Or you can just ask on Facebook, or maybe you can just ask your classmates if they can help you. The process, it could be really fast, because even if you are ordering the essay from some company, you can have it in less than 24 hours. Of course, you have to pay for it, but it is possible. Next, the companies are pretending that they are doing good things, that they are helping, that they are providing just materials, and these materials could help students to finish their essays. But we know basically that this is not true, and I will talk about this later. The next thing is that it is anonymous, or of course it could be if you are in contact with your classmate and he is doing the assignment for you, then of course it's not anonymous. But if you are ordering it via some web page, of course you don't know the processor of the paper. We know that it is fraud, but what not so many people know, that it is not illegal. We made one research and we asked the students if they know if this problem is illegal in their country, and a huge amount of students were just not sure. They didn't know. So where the contract cheating is illegal is in New Zealand and some, I think, 17 US states. The next problem is that it is really hard to reveal because, you know, the essays tend to be original, and it is even harder to prove that this is the case of contract cheating. And of course, we have to say that contract cheating has got a huge impact. Why? Because the credentials or degrees given by educational institutions are then untrustworthy, and in cases reputational damage to educational institutions. It allows students to purchase their will to get a degree, basically. And it, of course, devaluates the education of other students who are trying hard, who are studying by the honest way. And last but not least, it creates and contributes to a culture of fraud in every, let's say, nation. So there are two forms of contract cheating we can talk about. One is that the student might ask friend or classmate to write the essay, and the second one are the companies who can write it instead of you. Now I have data from the Czech Republic, which is country where I am from, and I would like to ask you, what do you think is the percentage between these two groups? How many students are asking classmates and how many companies? Together it should be 100. So let's guess the numbers.
Not sure about the figures, but I've got an impression that probably asking to write by friend is more frequent than by the companies, because it seems that companies are quite recent, that we just identify them as part of the contract cheating. But I will leave it for someone else to guess the number, the accurate number.
So my guess would be that as we are talking about the Czech Republic, which is a really limited market just for the Czech language, that most of them will be written by the classmates and hardly any is using the company. So I would say 90% the classmates and just 10% the companies.
Okay, thank you. So it is not a secret that 60% used friends and classmates, which wasn't as big number as you guessed, but basically more students asked some of their friends or maybe relatives. And just for, I don't think that it's just 40% used the companies. I think that's exactly a huge number. And the reason why these students used companies was that they think that it is much more anonymized, and they had the feeling that if it's from company, there should be better quality than when it's from classmate, because they, I don't know why, but in their head they've got the imagination that in the companies the people who are working there are well educated and they do understand this topic. But to make you sure about the quality of the papers from companies, I did small research where I asked two companies to write the same essay, because I wanted to know what the quality in Czech Republic is when I'm buying an essay. So the cost of 12-page essay was the same. It was 2,500 Czech crowns, which is around 113 euros. And both companies had 3 weeks to work out to make that essay for me. The essay wasn't just, the topic wasn't just the basic one. It was something what was about ethics in IT. So it wasn't just common that they can download it, they had to really write it. And there are the results. Here you can see the names of that companies. They are not as interesting, but just to let you know, because it's in Czech language. So the date of submission. One company sent it to me 5 days before the deadline, which gave me some place where I can work with that material, as they said. And the second one, they sent it to me on the deadline and late afternoon. So if I would order it not before my real deadline, I would have had no chance to recreate it as I supposed to do. And the second thing is quality. because the quality of the first paper, which was submitted 5 days before, was really, really bad. There were incorrect numbers of pages, lack of expertise, and some literary sources were missing. They were just mentioned in references, but they were not in text at all. So this quality was really bad. The other paper was just average, nothing special. There were just few grammar mistakes, but it could work. But the first one was horrible. So that was just proof for me that even if you are paying for the paper, it doesn't mean that it is going to be good quality and you will gonna get a great mark. So, how many students admitted to contract cheating? This is the second part. Now we are going to talk about the results from our survey. And the data I've got from the Global SAML survey, which was basically a project, an international project, which explored students' experience, study behaviors at the university, and the reason for the studying, and if they have any outsourcing behaviors of their assignments, or if they know somebody who ordered essay from anybody else or from any online platform. So this was the Global SAML survey, and we get more than 10,000 respondents. The survey, the questionnaire was translated into 22 languages, and 67 of the responses were just fully completed. Here is the map where the respondents, or I can say students, were from. So basically from whole world except Asia and Africa. And I will provide you today just results from 6 countries, because these countries had high numbers of respondents. And it is going to be Sweden, Australia, Chile, Serbia, Czech Republic, and Romania. At the first column, you can see the number of respondents. The second column is number of cheaters, and basically the third is the percentage of cheaters. The percentage of cheaters, we have to design who is going to be cheater. So we found 14 questions which can lead to that position where we can say, okay, this person is a cheater. So that's how we made it. And we found out that Sweden has got just 5% of cheaters in terms of talking about contract cheating. But for example, Czech Republic or Romania has got much bigger numbers. 19% or 28% is a really huge number, what we found. And these are just the numbers where the respondent said, yes, I did it. So there could be even more people who are just trying to pretend that they never did it, or they didn't understand, or they didn't want to fill in the questionnaire at all. Reasons why they cheated. We basically talk about the reasons why a lot of people plagiarized, but these are the reasons which came from the questionnaire. So first of all, it is lack of time, then too many assignments due at the same time, they didn't understand the topic, or they didn't see the purpose of the assignment, and the last one was laziness. So basically, they were too lazy to write an essay, so they just ordered it from somebody else. Now let's move to another part, because we already know that contract cheating is a problem. We saw the numbers, so we now can say how serious the problem is in that particular 6 countries. So let's now talk about how to deal with contract cheating.
Can I have a question?
Yes, of course.
Just to clarify, because this is kind of overarching concept, the contract cheating, could you give some example or cases when assistant is okay? Because contract cheating is having assistance from somewhere to help you with your paper or any other assignment, when this kind of assistant could be legitimate.
So, of course, some students really need help. And me personally, I asked for help many times, but I ask for, let's say, opinion or maybe some advice. But that person couldn't write it instead of you. They could give you some recommendation what you should do, or maybe they can lead you, they can show you the way, they can show you other papers which could help you, but they can't even just write it instead of you. That's the form of contract cheating for me.
Okay, let's make more provocative.
Yeah.
Okay, just imagine that I have broken my hand, the one that I used to write. And I have a deadline to submit a paper, so I have no possibility to type technically the text. And certainly I would probably ask someone, probably classmate, neighbor, to sit to my computer and to type the text technically. Would it be contract cheating?
I would say that every time you can go to your lecturer and show the problem, and maybe he would suggest to give you another form of how to submit that essay, or maybe give you another date. But this, you are coming with your ideas, but just somebody else is just technically writing it. It would depend. I would say that this is not contract cheating, because these are your ideas which are coming to that essay. But if you have any other idea, I would be happy to hear. Yeah.
Yes, I'm just, I agree with you that this would be fine, unless the person wouldn't come with his own ideas or improvements. If the person would just sit and listen
Yes.
and just type it, it's just technical solution. From my
Yes.
point of technician, it's technical solution. But if the person would start to ask questions and make improvements on the text, then I would see it as
Yeah.
maybe a little bit tricky situation in the gray zone, definitely.
Yeah, gray zone, definitely, you are right. Maybe it could be advice from him, maybe this sentence seems not so clear to me, let's change it. But, it couldn't be the whole work, all the minor piece of work. But thank you for this question, it was great. So, how to deal with contract cheating? First, I would like to open a discussion. We are going to discuss it in 5 minutes. And I would like to ask you, who do you think can help with contract cheating? So let's have 5 minutes to find out who can help.
To prevent or
To prevent,
contract cheating
or-
to make contract cheating?
no, not to make contract cheating, no, please. Who can make, if we are talking about how to deal with contract cheating, who can help us? I hope that now it is not on. No, I don't think it is on. I think now we can talk like that. No. Now it's not recording.
the teachers, the management.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so our discussion were much more about not only who can help, but how can we deal with it, and we will work with it also. But now, may I just ask you what we agreed on? Who can help with, not with contract cheating, but to deal with contract cheating?
Yes, so to sum up my idea, it was the management of the teachers' management of the institution.
And the other ideas were teachers as
This is kind of good to knowledge and expertise in the field of a teacher who supervises a specific paper or assignment. For example, to look whether the information is used, outdated information is used as it in presence. So that also gives some hints that something wrong with the paper.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. I've got some ideas too, so I will share it with you. Who can help dealing with contract cheating? Basically, we can start with students, of course, because they can help by getting involved in the education effort, being responsible for their own work, and seeking out help from legitimate sources available on their own campuses. So basically, we can start with students because these are, let's say, really important. They are really important part. Who else? I've got parents, because I think that parents must instill in students the real purpose and value of education. And I don't think that it is not necessary to push them or punish them if there is something not going as they wish it should work, but rather encourage them to do better. Then, as we discussed, faculty, teachers, institutional staff, just by discussing academic integrity with students, creating meaningful assignments, providing students with academic coaching, mentoring, as well as opportunities to develop their writing skills. Who else? As you said, the management or the leadership, they must make integrity and ethics a core aspect of the strategic plan. And also, they should strongly support the quality teaching and learning. And who else? Maybe politicians and legislators, because they can make contract cheating illegal, and that could help to decrease the amount of students who are contract cheating. Because if it's illegal, probably there is huge punishment, for maybe much bigger punishment than it is nowadays. So that could prevent contract cheating too. So maybe politicians and legislators too. Okay, so now we talk about who can help. Now I would like to talk to you or discuss with you how to deal with contract cheating. And now we are going to talk about how. And there could be two perspectives as I see it, because you can be the lecturer, you can be the teacher, or you can be the student. As we saw that both of these parts are important. So let's start with the students. So how to deal with contract cheating if you are a student. Maybe it sounds easy, but there could be few things what you can do. So let's take now 5 minutes to discuss it, please.
So meaning how to resist the contract.
our ideas. So Dita, may I ask you about your ideas? What student can do to deal with contract cheating?
So if I'm a student who trying to be honest and trying to study with integrity, the best thing that the student can do is try to share this opinion and try to convince the surrounding that this is the right copy. This is the right opinion, and maybe a little bit. Give impression that the copying is the stupid thing. Why you are copying, why you are stupid, and why you are copying. Maybe you are copying it with the mistakes. Maybe you will miss something when you will copy it. So you are cheating yourself.
Sure. And Loretta, she had another good idea. Mhm. With the social media.
Yeah, I just think that something could happen if we see a lot and permitted publicizing notes about potential to go for contract cheating companies specifically, because that is the case as you see any other publicizing notes. But you know, this is kind of, is it a purse or a dress that you can buy? That's fine, but once you can be convinced in some unconsciously that probably this is a good opportunity to save in your other files and just to keep it in the case it would be needed. So I think that's making kind of censorship on what is publicizing and how it can tease students to go for this unintentionally sometimes.
Mhm. Thank you very much. So we agreed on that it is not really easy every time to deal with the contract cheating if you are a student, because there are many things that can influence you to behave in the not the honest way. But I've got some suggestions how you can deal with contract cheating if you are a student. And the first one is really easy. Basically, don't cheat. If you have this attitude and if you have your moral level, it doesn't have to be so high if you are not if you don't want to cheat. The second one, to be honest, and to remember that you came to the university to get the knowledge, not only the degree, because sometimes you are cheating because you doesn't see the purpose or something like that, but the subjects at the university are there to help you to get the knowledge for your future work. So now if you are cheating, you are not getting the knowledge. And when you will come to work, there could be chance that you will know, but it is going to be harder for you because you don't know. Then, of course, you should share this good and honest attitude with others, with your classmates. You can just basically say that cheating is not good. Cheating, if you are behaving dishonestly, it is not the right way, and you shouldn't do that. And that could convince some of your colleagues or classmates that, okay, maybe they would think about it more, and maybe they will change their mind and do not cheat at all. And the last thing, and I think this is the most hard one, is to report unethical behavior. You shouldn't be blind and pretend that it is not happening. Maybe the teacher really doesn't know that this is happening, and he's not blind and he's not pretending. Maybe he just doesn't see it at all. So even that these students are now your friends, and even if you are close to them, you should be strong enough to say that I disagree with this attitude, with this behavior, and you should say to the teacher that you don't seem this fair. So this was about the students, and I see that Dita has got one comment, and I'm really happy to hear it.
I just You just gave me an idea that I remembered one US university who has really special code or special rules about this reporting of the unethical behavior, because it's so difficult to go to the teacher and tell him something about my friend. And actually, it's much easier to go to this friend and tell him, you just did something wrong. Why you did it? You should somehow try to improve it or somehow to correct your mistake. And this is what is written in this special university code. And maybe this can be the suggestions also for the students. Okay, so you don't have to go to the teacher, because in some cultures it can be seen as a really bad thing, but you can just approach this friend who was doing something wrong and tell him this was wrong, and yeah, think about it, why it was wrong, and maybe not to do it again.
Great, thank you. That's a great idea. And if anybody else has got any similar idea, just write it down and then send it to me, to my email. I will show you my address, and I will be really happy to hear something more about this if you have any idea, any other. And we already talked about that. And now the second, and I would say much bigger part, is how you can deal with contract cheating if you are a teacher. Okay, again, let's take I don't think it's going to be 5, maybe 10 minutes to discuss it, because I think there are going to be a lot of ideas. So, how to deal with share the idea. Maybe Dita can start because she was the last one who shared that.
Okay, I'm not trying to remember.
Yes, I also
A lot of ideas were there. So
Yes, so if there is a suspicion on the contract cheating was the problem of the work, it's always good to talk to the student and see if he really understands the work. And usually, when he doesn't understand, it's kind of proof that he didn't work on the work. But on the other hand, sometimes it's really tricky because then it's word against word. So it's good to have for this kind of meeting a person who is really neutral at the beginning, and then objectively can say what is his opinion of this interaction, of this communication between the student and the teacher. And for the student, it doesn't have to be provided, like there will be a judge on our conversation, but it can be provided, there will be a neutral person who can also support you, because if I would be bad guy, then he might help you and he might support you.
thank you, Inga. Maybe can you share how you are managing your
Okay, so I
assignment?
think I see two sides. One, I would always go for prevention. Yeah. So as a teacher, to do everything what is on you to construct your courses and interactions with students, so that there are as little incentives and as little opportunities for them to contract cheat. But then, if there are cases of contract cheating, I think that it is very important that we have a very common institutional understanding and position about that, and policies that allow to solve the situations, the stance that we really don't want these situations, and that we don't tolerate them. And if this is not there, I don't think that we can say we deal with the contract cheating.
I will summarize both of you. Just by summarizing, I would say there is a need to understand that responsibility should not rely on single members of the academic community. So it should not be only the matter of a teacher and student, but there should be a shared responsibility, or let's say core responsibility. So leadership should be involved as well. So, and they should provide some resources, and to keep in mind that even to have a conversation with a student or to make even check, it needs a time. So it should be somehow compensated.
Yes, thank you. I've got some ideas too. First of all, maybe you can require multiple drafts. Basically, if you are ordering some piece of work, they will give you the whole piece. Of course, they can give you just parts. You can order just parts, but it's something you have to do more. Something more you have to do. So it's easier to order just the whole piece. So maybe require multiple drafts. And use in-class writing. This is what we already discussed here, that in-class writing could help you to that you know what they are doing and if really they are doing it. And after they submit it at the end, you can see if it changed a lot or not at all. Then more personalized and authentic assignments. We already discussed that this is the way to go, that it really helps to prevent contract cheating. And then limit non-substantive requirements. I mean that sometimes when you are giving the requirement that you need 200 words exactly, that's, not needed, and maybe because they are not sure if they can make, okay, 200 was not too much, but there could be bigger numbers, that they need to figure it out how to write it in that exactly amount of words. That could be really hard, and maybe that's the reason why they cheat. So just maybe try to limit it, or think about it if the number of words is important, or the thing or the meaning or what is inside the paper is more important. Then I've got here allow late submissions, and I don't mean it like you have to say that it's okay that they are submitting it after the deadline, maybe you can give them some minus points or lower grade, but definitely it is not a good idea to say after deadline, no paper for me, everybody has got F. Sometimes it's better to submit it late with a lower grade than to cheat because you have to make it on time. Then you can use assigned sitting, which is connected with if you are writing exams. So you can prevent that if somebody who has got fake ID come inside the class, they probably don't know where they have to sit or where they should sit. And of course you can check ID. And if you are checking ID like during the test, don't check it just by the name and the picture like that, but you should check it with the picture which is in your PC from your university web page or inside the system, because they can have the fake name on their ID too. And then I got here one graph where you can see types of testing, and it's like hood to outsourcing. Just this green line is how implemented this type of testing is in teaching, and these yellow and orange columns, you can see how likely it is outsourced, this type of testing. And for example, if we are going to talk about oral exams, not many teachers are using it, but we can see that it is very effective if we are talking about outsourcing. So it is not that easy if you want to contract cheat via oral exam. But on the other hand, a lot of students, a lot of teachers are using some heavily weighted tasks, which are quite often likely to be outsourced. So this is just a graph, and let's continue. You should detect when contract cheating has occurred and how you should do that. You can check the properties of the paper, and I mean it like clicking the button, the right button, and finding the details. When was the last change, and who is the author? Of course, the students could say that he borrowed a laptop from his friend and he wrote it there, but this could be cleared via just short discussion between you and the student. So this is the way you should. This is something what you should do every time. Check the properties, and it will take you just a few seconds, but maybe it make you just, you should think about it if there is something wrong. Then look for the papers that are too good to be true. I had some students who were at my class, and they doesn't speak at all. And even if I ask them questions, the answers were really weak. And I knew that they doesn't understand, and they are not good even Czech speakers because they were international students. But after that, they came up with amazing essay, brilliant Czech words. Even I can't imagine that I could use them, you know. So there was warning for me, and I had to check if the properties of the work are really from that person, and that's how I figured out that it wasn't their piece of work. And of course, if you ask students about the words or ideas in their paper, maybe if they can use this word in another way, just to make sure that they really understand what they are talking about. So maybe this can help you too. Of course, you can use text matching software, but every time you have to check the percentage. and I thought that Dita is going to talk about it, but she didn't talk about it at all. So here basically is in Czech language written that this is the number of how similar, the similarity percentage of this document. If there is 75%, what does it mean to you?
I need to check each percentage because they should become regular text matches. I mean, for example, there should be repetition of the university title, so which is natural text match. But I need to check whether this number will diminish to some extent.
Yes, thank you. And now may I ask you what you should do with this when there is 0% and Loretta is again.
Definitely look carefully.
Yeah. This is also kind of a serious case because not all text matching softwares deal with pictures. And sometimes if you make file not from Word to PDF, but you transfer Word in images and you then make a PDF, certainly the system won't find nothing.
Yes. Do you want to add something or?
Yeah, well, one thing what I had, apart of other things that I have about Zero, is that what I actually had that, you know, it depends on the text matching software that you're using. And so when we were using the local one, the works of foreign students, I mean, those, for example, in English, they would always show Zero because there is nothing to compare them to. But it does not mean, and I had the works that were like really the cases of plagiarism, but they had a 0. So it does not really mean anything. I mean, you just still have to look carefully.
Yeah, basically wanted to say the same, that it's really, really suspicious because there are so many little tricks which can somehow trick the text matching software. So and naturally, in most of the text matching software, there appears some similarity because there are really many terms which are just repeating just because you are writing the work from your field. So there are some phrases which everybody is using. As it was proven in previous research, it's natural text match which probably might appear in most of the text, and if there's nothing like this, then it's really, really suspicious.
Great, thank you. I think that we can agree on that both of the numbers are not good, and you should be aware if you see all these both percentages. And I think that we all can say the same thing, that the most important are the sources, not the percentage. And here you can see the link from Turnitin, where it's exactly written from what source that part exactly is. So you can check it. Sometimes you will see that if it's some law work, as we already talked about it, that it could be copied word by word, but cited properly, and the percentage could be higher than in another topic. Okay, so we talk about the percentage and get the second opinion. That's basically what Dita said. If you are not sure, you should go and ask your colleague or somebody from the university who can help you and help you with the detecting, or just they can even tell you that you are crazy and this is not contract cheating at all, because sometimes you just could think about other things than the others. Then, of course, if we are going to talk about some exams, you should monitor the testing environments. And as we already talked about it, from the point of view of prevention, there is the case of using assigned seating and checking ID. So what could be suspicious too if you are looking at the essay or some thesis or another paper? So as we already seen, the high match in text matching software, then of course the low match, the 0 in text matching software. Suspicious could be very old sources which are used. Suspicious could be very strange or unusual sources. The other thing that it could be strange if there is discussion and resources that doesn't relate at all to the topic. So maybe they just copy the topic and they copied the sources from another paper. Then, of course, resources that do not exist, some fake names and some fake papers. They are really easy to make. Then links to fraudulent sites. And as we talk about it, the stylistic changes. It could be change of the language, of the grammar, sometimes vocabulary and formatting and fonts and so on. That could be suspicious too. And we should also remember that even the custom work can contain some grammatical errors. Okay, as a teacher, you should ensure that academic integrity policy is up to date. And as we already talked about it, you can talk about it with your colleagues and with another person from the university. Then you should punish every case of broken policy. If you are pretty sure that the policy was broken, you couldn't hesitate to punish it because you have to show that you are not on the same wave with the cheaters. And you can work with local legislators and make it illegal. That's what I've read now article about the UK. They are trying, and even in Lithuania, I heard about some steps which are doing to make it illegal. Okay, that's all from me. I would like to thank you all, and I would like to thank all who watched the webinar. If you have any comments, I would be really happy to answer it. If you can send me a message or if you can send me an email, I would be really happy to answer. Thank you very much.
May I have a question?
Yes.
I don't know, but we now talked a lot about text matching software and basically works that are written works and sources that are written sources. But have you encountered during your research or I don't know, some other activities that the contract cheating cases which are not related to written works? For example, I don't know if there are design students, so that they buy designs, or art students that they produce artistic stuff. And of course, I guess if someone is from IT, the
Coding
coding
and so on. Yeah.
could also be. So do you have any instances about that? And don't you think that this is again one big area that is overlooked? I don't know, maybe by us or in general.
Thank you for the question. Maybe the question about the coding could be to Dita because she is the IT person. But I would say that with the coding, it could be something similar with the writing, because you can provide the proof how you write it, and you do understand how does it work. So there could be a way. But talking about art and all the designs and so on, it could be really, really hard to reveal contract cheating. And I don't think that we are overviewing this, but I think that this is even bigger challenge to deal with it than to deal with the written papers. So maybe that's the reason why the research is now focusing more on this, because it should be easier to deal with it. And maybe then we can move on and try to work with this. But for me, I can't even imagine how you can prove it.
Yes, because I can
Just look for someone's art and said that served me for inspiration.
Yeah, and
sometimes, yes, we cannot say about the papers we read that they serve for inspiration, because this is where we should address properly. But okay, I have also one question. I like the statistic that you provided about these 6 countries you selected. I wonder whether you have any data about the countries which have legal, let's say, prohibition about contra-cheating, whether they do perform better.
In
Does it
you mean
help or
New
not?
Zealand? Unfortunately, no. I've got some answers from New Zealand too in that questionnaire or in that survey, but it wasn't enough to make some statement that it is better or not at all. So because it was focused mainly on, how to say, numbers of the respondents, then basically just have a look at these countries. But I would say that it would be really interesting to check this, if it really works. Maybe, but I read some paper that there are some holes even in these legislations which were already found, and the contract cheating is working there now, even if there is a legislation. But no.
But that could be a value of having such legal provisions if, for example, the rate of detection would increase, which means this is already good.
Yeah, I wouldn't check it, but I would say that if there is bigger punishment, it could lead to lower number of cheaters. So that's my hypothesis, but
I have just one idea or comment, as I know your results, as you were asking the people if they think that the companies are illegal in their
Yeah.
country. And really big amount of people were actually convinced that the companies are illegal, and still the people were doing it. So even if the companies are not illegal in most of the countries, the respondents thought they are illegal, but still they were using them even if it's illegal. So I'm a little bit pessimistic from this point of view
Are you?
personally.
I'm not sure if if we are talking about the same people who said that it is illegal and who said that they cheated. We should have a look at it. Yeah. Yeah, we will definitely have a look at it.
If I may, I have one more comment about the cheating in the art and this kind of assignments. One thing which is the reason for the plagiarism and for contract cheating is that the students don't understand the purpose why they should do this kind of assignment. So I'm just maybe too much optimistic or idealistic that people who study art, that they are really enjoying their studies and their work, and they understand or they see why they are doing it, and maybe they are a little bit more they are more proud on their work than, for example, the students on business, where they are writing just papers. So I'm just idealistic that maybe the people from art, they are less cheating because they are enjoying the studying
Yeah,
of the
but
art.
maybe in case of lack of time, it could happen. Any other comments? So thank you very much. You were amazing.